Welcome to HortTube. My name is John Putnam. 'Tis the season to figure out what we're doing with leaves in our gardens. The vast majority of my neighbors and the vast majority of folks everywhere dispose of them in some way. Most folks in our neighborhood just rake them out because we can't burn them in our gardens. Back at the old house when I lived out in the suburbs, I mean, lots of people rake their leaves up and then burn them. But they are actually very beneficial to the garden, and and part of the nutrients that your garden produced during the year is in those leaves. And so you're taking basically fertilizer and hard work that the soil and the soil microbes and everything did, and just going, we don't need that, right? And then having to re-fertilize to make that up, or put mulch down to make that up. So they do have a benefit in the garden, and they are nature's way of keeping the ground covered during the winter time, and regulating the soil temperature, regulating soil moisture, creating material that then gets broken down and starts that life cycle back over of earthworms and beneficial bacteria, beneficial fungi, breaking all these things down. And just it's that life cycle of everything. Plus, a lot of these leaves have, and we have an oak back here, and white oaks are, or oaks are host of 500 different species plus of things that live on them and survive on them. And some of these leaves that drop down to the ground actually have life on the back of them that overwinter that way. And that's how they do their life cycle. So you are disposing of a lot of other life outside of what you think you're just getting rid of the leaves in your garden. Again, I understand some folks want to maintain a perimeter of neatness, corner to corner to corner in their gardens, and that's the way they want it to look. And of course, everybody's free to do that. That's the way it is. But for me, I've always thought that these leaves had some benefit. There's a reason for them. I'm going through different ways here of gathering them and grinding some portion of them up and then leaving some portion of them whole, where I don't need to feel like I need to control the whole thing. My paths back here, I like to differentiate them from the rest of the garden. So I go through here and rake those up. And generally speaking, I just rake them into the bed unless they're really, really deep, and then I'll dispose of them in a bed where there are no leaves, typically. I got this piece of equipment. This is a Toro leaf shredder. I have a leaf shredder in the shop that I had shown in a video a couple years ago, and it's basically got a weed eater. It's basically an upside down weed eater, and you pile leaves in it and it breaks them down. It does not do a very good job of doing that. I got this Toro electric one that basically collects the shredded leaves in a bag like this. This is an electric version. You can get a backpack version of this. It's a gas version. It'd be much more powerful than this. So keep that in mind. This is not going to be, the top of the line way to do this. But basically vacuuming these up, and it shreds them enough. I don't need it to shred them into nothing. I just need to put edges on the leaves. When you have a whole leaf, they basically break down from the outside edges in, and it takes a long time to break that leaf down by design. But if you put more edges on it, that's going to break down much quicker and become food for your garden much faster. It does reduce the volume. You take a pile of leaves this high and turn it into a bag like this, and then respread them, back into the garden space. And they do look more decorative like this. It looks more like a finished mulch, when you grind them up that way. I don't have enough patience for any of that. The only way that I would use this machine is if I had like an acre and I couldn't get them out to the driveway. If I was going to grind them up, I think the best way to do it is to get the big wheelbarrow and then put them in the wheelbarrow. I can rake this, put these in a wheelbarrow, go to the driveway and grind them up. My buddy around the corner here blows his leaves out he's got 3 giant oaks. He has no choice but to reduce the size of the leaves, and he mulches with leaves, but he has no choice but to reduce the volume because they pile up this high, when you have 3 giant oaks. So he blows those leaves out to the driveway, runs his mower back and forth across them, and then he's got instant mulch. The mower does a lot better job than at least this machine does. Again, there are bigger options than this. This oak above us, as you get closer to it, does drop more and more leaves. You know, it's obviously closer to the tree, the deeper the leaves are. So sometimes things back here can be a little thicker than I want to keep it in the beds. And so I'll go back here and just kind of redistribute it some. If it's really deep in a spot, you know, again, I'll move it to a spot that there are no leaves. We will mulch this. We'll put a mulch cap over top of these leaves around the end of February, 1st of March, because sometime around here, the soil temperature about March 15th warms back up to about 60, 65 degrees. And when that happens, that's when most of our spring and summer weeds start to germinate. So I want to put a mulch cap on at that time. So that's when this leaf litter out here will get a mulch cap on it. Between now and then, it is my mulch cap. The other thing about using that vacuum is if I walk around in here, I do have my hardwood mulches underneath it, and it's sucking up that wood too, and it's really kind of loud, and again, and only slightly effective, honestly. Anyway, I do rake the paths out because I want to differentiate those, and the other thing I do is get the leaves off of the plants as much as possible. I want to get the leaves down to the ground. They look a whole lot better. The whole thing looks a whole lot better once we do that. So most of the plants can just be raked off. You're not going to hurt them at all. And then I'll rake the paths off. Any place where the leaves are a little thin, I can just throw them up in that area. I took the leaves off the path, and then I had a big spot over here where we just removed 5 shrubs and did some changes. Those are disturbances that we've done in the soil over there that probably brought up weed seeds, and I want to make sure that I'm getting that covered, because again, I'm not generally mulching this entire garden until end of February, beginning of March. And in the meantime, these leaves are extremely beneficial to me with projects we have going on. We're going to be planting all winter. So every time I turn soil over here, I want to make sure that I'm not inviting a bunch of weeds to come. So some of these leaves can be in reserve over here, and I can use them as my mulch, my temporary mulch, while I wait for my kind of finished mulch. Any of these low-growing shrubs like this that seem to want to catch every leaf, like these Mojo Pittosporum, I don't care to get every leaf off of them. Just trying to get the majority of them off. Ground covers are very important, I think, here. This is a Juga. If I had a marginal ground cover, so let's say I had a ground cover that was barely hardy here, I might leave the leaves sitting on top of it for the worst of the winter, because I'm filming this December 12th-ish or whatever. By the second or third week of January, typically our worst weather's passed, so I might wait until then. But like something like this Ajuga, which is hardy in, basically everywhere, I think the leaves are doing more damage to it. The wet leaves are going to do more damage than good, so I'm going to get them off of that. Okay, this camellia, which is extremely decorative, when on warm days it opens lots and lots of flowers. It's not exactly decorative covered in leaves like this. It's cold this morning, so the flowers that are on it are pretty much toast, but the flower buds are still on it. I don't want to be knocking flower buds off either, so I won't be so aggressive with this, but it's not exactly attractive flowering with covered in leaves like this. Okay, all right. So that's what I'm thinking about, what to uncover, what not to uncover. What looks better uncovered, what looks better covered. Again, just going around knocking it off the shrubs down to the ground, getting the ground covers uncovered. This is an annual bed along in a back area here that it's no problem if these leaves just stay on it during the winter time. I mean, there's no real reason until spring for me to, and it keeps that soil life alive, keeps it warm, keeps it moist. The sedum under here is definitely appreciative of me getting the leaves off of it for sure, and it looks 100 times better, like that. I don't mind the winter looking like the winter, right? Though, I mean, it's supposed to be cold. It's supposed to be leaves on the ground. It's supposed to be, in my mind, again, other folks are going to want to maintain corner to corner. I asked this question a lot on consultations. Had one the other day. 200 feet, 300 feet from someone's house, they were trying to figure out how to landscape this bank, this slope that they had, that they can't even see from their house. It literally sloped away. They had a nice backyard, and then it sloped away from them down to a wooded space. But they owned this 50, 60, 70 foot wide space that was probably 300 foot long. It's a giant space, and wanted to know all the landscaping things that they should be doing with it. And I asked the question, why? You don't have to, this is going to be a lot of work for you. You're not actually going to be able to see it. And just, it's okay to let nature have a little bit of it. And that's what I did at the old house. This is 0.19 acres, and I'm pretty much trying to control, I am landscaping it edge to edge to edge, but I'm leaving the leaves in place during the winter, and I don't feel like I need to have absolute control over every single thing that happens out here. At the old house, though, it was almost an acre, and almost half of it I had just let the woods take. Okay, I let nature just have that, because it allowed me then to concentrate the efforts that I had into the rest of the garden. Because I felt like if I was trying to maintain that whole acre in some sort of perfect way, that would have me mowing grass. Definitely need to get the leaves off your grass, 100%. But if that would have me mowing grass 2-3 hours a week, have me maintaining some things that I can't even see from the house, from my views from the deck or from the front porch, or they're no benefit to the overall landscape, at the expense of me really putting effort and time and energy into having an interesting, flowers and annual spaces and perennial plants and other interesting things that I can have in the garden. Just takes maintenance time from that. So, I do question that. Why am I maintaining this space? If there are spaces in your garden, you have a large lot, it may be time for that space to just be the space where the leaves from the lawn go, and then you're done. You don't have to really think about it, and those leaves can just break down and improve that part of your garden. I put the drone up above here so you can see how the paths look back here, just cleaned off, and the leaves in the beds, and I pretty much just, all I did here was even the leaves out, knocked them off the shrubs for the most part. I didn't get so aggressive that I'm breaking things or knocking buds off the camellias or anything like that. I just wanted to differentiate the paths, just neaten it up some, redistribute the leaves into spaces we've been working in from areas where they were too thick, using the leaves to my benefit from the path to do that. The ground covers have been uncovered for the most part. Still need to do this out front, but there's nowhere near as many leaves out in the front garden space. But I think overall, it looks neat enough for me for the winter time. And by February or March, this will have protected everything to get me to when I'm going to make this more decorative. By then, we're moving a bunch of plants around this winter, and so it would be kind of, if I came in here, if you think about this, if I came in here and took out all these leaves, ground them up on the driveway, put them back here thinner, and then did all the work I have to do, by spring I'm going to have a ton of weeds. So I think this is really going to help me out just in general, and it's what I do every year anyway. You know, just get the. I like to keep the paths, you know, kind of differentiated because it just looks good. It looks better overall. But there you go. Leave the leaves. That is the name of this video, and I want to encourage everyone to do that. To you know, have these things break down in your garden where they fell, and you know, I think overall, you know, there's a diesel truck that's going to back down this road for the second time this year, and vacuum leaves up off the street, take them to the city dump, put them in a giant pile. Then people are going to drive their trucks and trailers over there and pick that leaf mold up to drive it back to their houses to use as mulch in their gardens. And it just doesn't seem like a very good system for you know, for disposing of these things, and they're best probably done in our own garden. So thank you for following along with the channel.